most of these areas, the parks and the museums, were only 28% of our registered travelers. But as we speak now, the number has gone to 84%, which we think is good, and that's why we are promoting domestic tourism. And we believe this can create a much more sustainable and resilient tourism sector if we encourage Ugandans to travel, because the sector can survive on with the Ugandans without necessarily having the foreigners if we had challenges like COVID and Ebola. The number of direct flights, of course, I know this will improve now that we have an airline, and I know this also helps us increase the numbers. We have 7 direct flights, which is still very small compared to the rest of the countries in the region. I know there are some routes maybe coming in Guangzhou, in China, and in England. Maybe that would help as well. The average hotel occupancy before COVID was around 51.9. It is still low, it's around 33%. Hopefully we shall get better. If you look at the tourism arrivals, before COVID we had around 1.5 million visitors getting into this country as tourists. During COVID it went to 478. Now we are at around half the number, 814,000. And we believe maybe in the next 2 years we'll be able to hit the 1.5 million visitors again. So the length of stay, as you can see, it was around 8.3. Then, this is mainly, it has gone down because of now the local travelers. But if you look at the foreign travelers, it has increased a bit to around 11.4%. 11.4 nights within the country. So the travel of leisure, I think you can still see, these numbers are affected because we've not yet fully recovered from COVID. But would be doing much better, probably even beyond the 21% or 23%. So accommodation capacity, I think you can see. So many Ugandans have invested in accommodation facilities, and they actually more have invested despite the COVID issues. But you can see the hotel, the number of beds has grown, or number of rooms has grown to around 350,000 from 133 before COVID. And this is mainly to cater for the domestic travelers that usually pay low incomes or can't afford the huge amounts of money in dollars to get accommodation. So I think it's a good trend. The next slide. And these are the key performance indicators we're going to look at. Contribution of tourism to the total employment in this country. Before COVID, it was around 5.8. And I think what we're trying to say is mainly because maybe UBOS then, Uganda Bureau of Statistics, did not have sufficient figures, and they were doing an estimate. That's why they were giving 4.8%. But during the COVID time, when they did the real statistics, the contribution of tourism is 14.7 in terms of employment, not 5.4 as so we believe this is a very big contribution as a sector. So exports of tourism services, that one we already talked about. Visitor satisfaction, yeah, it's around 79%, which is good because we are very friendly people here. Number of people directly employed along the tourism value chain. Now, still, because of the lack of proper numbers, by UBOS then, we're just estimating 200,000. But after a good study by UBOS, you can see that the tourism sector directly employs 1.559,147 Ugandans. So I think this is an important sector. Population, so we've given you a population of the animals here, you can see. The elephants have increased. I had the professor come on to having a quarrel with Makombo about how the animals have become a problem. But we are still trying to find a way of managing them in terms of electric fencing. But you can see there has been an increase in the number of most of the animals, the populations. Let's go to the next slide. But before this, probably just to pick some interest in the incidence of human-wildlife conflict. Before COVID, we had we were reporting around 3,436 a year. But by end of year 2022, they had actually doubled to 7,795. And this is a big problem, even in terms of most of the programs that government is doing, because these animals sometimes do a lot of damage to people's gardens, and it has an implication on the livelihoods of quite a number of people within communities. But still, government is, we are trying to come up with some interventions to see how we regulate or put an end to this problem. The next slide. So yeah, we are going to the... So these are the specific commitments in the manifesto. The first one is provide support to the sector to fast track its recovery from the impacts of COVID-19, as well as adapt resilience measures for the growth sector and sustainability. And these are our achievements so far, because something is being done. The government has provided some funding for us in terms of wage for the ministry and its agencies. We've undertaken a number of domestic tourism awareness drives to promote the country's tourism offering and encourage Ugandans to visit the beautiful country and also contribute to the sector. We can go to the next. The second commitment was to implement a national tourism marketing strategy, both domestic and international, as well as build a positive and competitive image by rolling out the Pearl of Africa brand in Africa and overseas. You know, before we didn't have any brand that speaks to Uganda as a destination. Now we have one. It was launched by the president the other day, and marketing drives are ongoing, both within the country for the domestic market, but also for the foreign market. And I think you can see we've gotten a number of awards, appeared on CNN as well. Uganda's tourism products promoted in 9 domestic and tourism events. I think you've seen that. We can go to the next slide. The third commitment, increase the stock and quality of tourism infrastructure by upgrading 1,000 kilometers of national tourism roads, development of Hoima International Airport and expansion of Entebbe International Airport, as well as domestic airports such as Arua, Gulu, and Kasese. And you can see what has been done so far by government through the ministry, but also the other sister agencies. We've given a very conducive environment for anyone in the sector to flourish and make some money. Civil works are ongoing on the 19 tourism roads through the Ministry of Works. Of the 1,000 kilometers at least, we have 948 kilometers as ongoing works. And you can see the roads, Masindi, Pakwa, Chhoima. Most of these roads also contribute to tourism, as much as they do a lot in terms of carrying produce, security, but somehow they also have an impact on the growth of tourism. Now, over the last 10 years, at least 18 tourism roads have been completed with a total length of 1,507 kilometers. And I want to thank government for the support. Hoima International Airport, I think Ministry of Works was here. They must have told you they're at 90% completion. And the president recently gave a directive as well to upgrade a number of aerodromes in Kisoro, in Kasese, and a number of areas within the country. And we believe this will also go a long way in improving tourism. Uganda Airlines has been operationalized. I think they will tell you their story when they come. We can go to the... Now, construction and rehabilitation of marine routes. This was the fourth commitment. We've not made some serious progress. I know someone has been availed to us in the next financial year. We are speaking now. We are supposed to see what has actually been passed in the budget. But what we had preliminary was we'll do some works at Uganda Wildlife Education Center. We will do something at the source of the Nile. But there are quite a number of areas as well that need to be worked on, that we believe in the subsequent years maybe government will provide funding so we can do them within this period when we're supposed to fulfill these commitments. The fifth one was enhanced regulation, coordination and management of the tourism sector to facilitate the development of accommodation and conference facilities of all types and sizes, as well as leisure attractions and facilities including restaurants, bars and cafes. We're on track with this, what we've achieved so far. We've issued concessions in protected areas, and more areas identified and earmarked for the private sector investment in accommodation. So in order to achieve this, you know, any Ugandan, if you have the capacity to, or any foreigner wants to invest into the park, usually there is an agreement, and then you can be allowed to come and invest free of charge. You just have to pay a few fees. What we've done in terms of regulation, we've so far registered 1,509 and inspected licensed 787 tour and travel operators. We've registered 279, inspected and licensed 88 accommodation facilities from eastern and western Uganda. Now, this is the mandate of UTB that is also under the ministry. And if you see deliberately, what we've also agreed to do is, for instance, if you're not a registered tour guide going forward, you may not be able to do business with the sector anymore. You cannot access a park. You cannot get a gorilla tracking permit. So you're trying to see how we keep the standard so that we can compete with the rest of the players within the region, but also internationally. So I think we are at least on track with that commitment. The sixth, support the private sector to provide low-cost accommodation facilities in protected areas, tourism zones. This is almost similar to commitment number 5. And I think you can see, in addition to the concessions that we give in the parks, they usually tax waivers to whoever wants to construct an accommodation facility, furnishing, in terms of machinery, even tourist vehicles. Usually you see there is a certain tax waiver that is given to you. But even the boats, those are interested that in marine tourism, you get some exemptions, and I want to thank government for that. Through UDB, the tourism sector, we got some money from government in a partnership with the European Union, where government made a certain contribution, I think of around 41, was it? Well, around 41 billion shillings. And the European Union gave around 20 billion. So the facility is ongoing, and some people have benefited from the tourism sector. Another 20 sites have been identified, and NOAA is working with the UIA. This is still to give concessions. On top of the 12 that have been given, they're working on another 20, and I think soon they'll be advertised. And then whoever is interested can come and have a lodge within any of the protected areas. Yeah, someone has talked about the waivers on the tourist vehicles and boats, so we can go to the next. The 7th commitment, working with the private sector to support tourism enterprise, to promote investment in the sector, inclusive community participation, and attract 5 successful international brands in the tourism value chain. Yeah, this one, I think we almost, because if you very well know, we have only one international brand here. That is Sheraton. These others you see, Serena, Protea, are regional brands. They are not international. But there are some people that are already investing. There is someone investing in the Marriott. There is a Hilton coming up and a Radisson. So we believe soon there will be a number of international chains. And trust me not, this will help increase on the number of foreign tourists that come into this country. Uganda's investment opportunities showcased in international markets, including the Africa Hotel investment held in Morocco. Of course, this is to attract more international chains to come and invest in Uganda. We can go to 8. Build the Matumagani International Convention Center in Entebbe to boost the capacity of the country to host larger international conferences and events. Currently, we've managed to, there was a delay because of a few issues to do with the acquisition of the land, but we've been able to acquire 11 acres in Entebbe. So I think we're on track with that. Anytime government will support us, and we'll have a convention center in place that is ours as Ugandans. Promote conservation of natural and cultural heritage through upgrading key wildlife reserves like Katonga, Pianupe, Semliki. Conserve natural forest reserves like Kichuya, Budongo, Kalinzu, Maramagambo, and create new national parks and wildlife reserves for tourism. This was our 9th commitment. And as you can see, we're on track with this. We've already done consultations with a number of districts. We've gotten resolutions from these districts to upgrade Katonga Wildlife Reserve, Toro Semliki Wildlife Reserve, Ichuya Central Forest Reserve, Kagombe Central Forest Reserve, Bukalibia, Sango Bay Central Forest Reserve, and wetlands Kasato Central Forest Reserve, Renje, and Chamuranji. So very soon we are preparing a cabinet paper so we can have this passed in cabinet and then brought to Parliament for an upgrade. So I think on that commitment, at least we're on track. The 10th. Establish 10 valley dams in water-stressed areas. I think we are making some progress on this. 5 have been established. And those are the areas in Kidepo, in Kaboya. We have continued to protect, manage, and sustain. This is now the mandate under Uganda Wildlife Authority to maintain and protect the 10 national parks, 12 wildlife reserves, and they are doing this very well, despite the few challenges of the human-wildlife conflict. And also to mitigate the human-wildlife conflict under the commitment, you can see that so far, since the commitment was made, we've so far constructed 106 kilometers of electric fence in particular protected areas. And I know that there is some more funding from the World Bank. Probably by the time we finish this period, we'll have added maybe another 150 kilometers from World Bank. Makombo can speak to that a little bit more. But there's also some funding that we are getting from the ministry to also extend the electric fence, and it could be an additional 100 kilometers. So we are fairly convinced that by the time we finish this period, we'll have done actually the 500 kilometers that we promised to do, and I want to thank government for that support. We can go to the next. Modernize the work to undertake conservation awareness and education around protected areas and increase work visits to 460,000 in financial year 2024-2025. This is interesting because if you look at the achievements now, because you're saying they should increase to 460 in 2024-2025. But despite the challenges, first of all, work modernized, we're talking about the Entebbe Zoo. Modernized with the establishment of acquisition of 4 new animal species, the giant eagle owl, the brother monkey, tigers, redback, golf cats, for helping the elderly that cannot move to easily access the zoo. Upgrade and engineer of 5 animal exhibits, acquisition of outreach track, rehabilitation of the wildlife quarantine center, establishment of a mini kids zoo, but most importantly, the improvement in numbers. Prior to COVID, the highest number of visitors that had visited WEC were 383,398. But even before this year closes, the financial year, in the year 2022, they had an increase of over 100,000 visitors. So they had already gone to 486,313. So I think the target has been achieved in 2022, not even in 2024. And hopefully things will get, but this is mainly because the Ugandans are now traveling and visit most of these places. 12 regional work satellite center to be established in all major tourism development areas, starting with Mbale. And we want to thank the people of Mbale because 60 acres have been, our partners in National Forest Authority, 60 acres have been earmarked, and soon the construction maybe will take place. So at least there is some progress on that as well. We can go to 13. Conserve and develop Uganda's cultural heritage through expansion and modernization of the National Museum, establishment of 2 regional museums, and maintaining the integrity of 100 cultural heritage sites through boundary protection and land titling, as well as nomination of 3 sites to the UNESCO World Heritage List. What has been achieved so far? Designs and BOQs have been developed for the expansion of the Uganda Museum here, and SEDEP, which is a project supporting the ministry. So we believe, and it's a huge project, probably soon there will be some kind of improvement. 3 new exhibits established at the Uganda Museum, under MEAN, Uganda EPS, and the National History Exhibition of Uganda, which was done when we were celebrating Uganda at 60. Land secured and designs produced for the proposed Fort Portal Museum. We also want to thank the local government that helped us in achieving this. So hopefully soon there'll be some progress, but at least the land has already been, is in place. Now 20 cultural heritage sites were titled. Of course, there's still a long way to go. Hopefully, we'll continue increasing the numbers. Uganda's Napa Cultural Heritage Site successfully presented and listed as one of the 100 geoparks in the world. Completed the renovation of the Mugaba Palace in Imbara. Museums and Monuments Bill was enacted by Parliament. It's before His Excellency for assent. So I think that was also a good achievement for the Museums Department under the ministry. This is another way we are not making progress. Develop and enhance the capacity of labor force along the tourism value chain through undertaking on-job training of 20,000 workers as well as apprenticeship for 1,000 Ugandans. Well, some small work has been done, but we believe next financial year we'll do this better because it's quite wide. I mean, it's training drivers that are within the sector, maybe chefs, maybe graduates that are coming out of school to go and be part of or get some hands-on training before they get out there and be a part of the sector, which I think is important. So probably next financial year, when we come back, we'll have some progress, not no progress, but something is being done. Upgrade and transform the Uganda Wildlife Research Training Institute and Uganda Wildlife Research Training Institute and Uganda Hotel and Tourism Training Institute into centers of excellence for wildlife and tourism training. An 80-room 3-star training application hotel is being constructed in Jinja. It is almost done. And we are currently in talks with some private players to now manage the hotel section from the training institute and at the level of maybe Nile Hotel, which manages Serena. So we believe with such expertise, we'll be able to produce one of the best, because first of all, the hotel facility will be good, and the people managing the hotel will also be good. So we believe we'll be able to produce students that can be allowed anywhere, even beyond Uganda. UHTTI and both institutions are undergoing restructuring now. So probably soon we'll have the best staff there to produce the best human resource that we want to put out there. The next, this is the 16th. I think we're coming to an end soon. Promote, improve, develop, and diversify tourist attraction sites and products, including Equator Point at Kayawe, education and health road along the equator, Kaguru Hill and Bishop James Sannington sites. There are quite a number, but we can just tell you this is where Professor Kamut also had some interest in Kitagata. Kaguru Hill, we've done some improvements. Modernized the tourism product, modernized with concrete steps, rail guards and chains. Starting platform, 2 viewpoints, a monument and a shelter structure to increase tourist competitiveness, safety, capacity of the site, and accessibility. Then Kitagata, phase 1 constructed, and that was landscaping and fencing. The proposed Mount Elgon development project, upraised and ready for implementation. The source of the Nile modern pier is under implementation, and we'll have facilities including a dock for 19 boats, a viewing bridge, 2 water fountains, and ancillary facilities. And I think this is a very important project for us as a country. We've talked about it for years, because the source of the Nile is only unique to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. So I believe this will be And this is the beginning. We believe that over the years there will be more investment to make it a much more unique and beautiful place. So I want to thank government for that support. Rwenzori Mountains hiking facilities established, including 2 tourist camps at Nyabitaba, 3,200 meters of boardwalks, 650 meters of climbing ladders. Pre-visibility study for cable cars was done, and funds for feasibility are yet to be secured. So this is for the Mount Rwenzori, which is the highest non-volcanic mountain in the whole world. So at least there is some development ongoing. So these are the challenges that we face as a sector. Limited marketing and advertisement of the new brand that we told you rolled out, Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, which has resulted in limited visibility and negative perceptions of the brand within the industry, even within the Ugandans, some members of the private sector. But at least we are moving fairly. Natural calamities like COVID, earthquakes, floods. Recently, there is this one that was called Ebola, that also had a very bad impact, especially for the districts that were along that path through Mubende. But we want to thank the Ministry of Health for having intervened and the Ugandans for the support. At least we've put that behind our back. Poor infrastructure, especially road network and water transport, which makes accessibility poor. And we want to thank His Excellency the President, because he has given a directive written to us, and we have already started engagements with Ministry of Works and Transport to work on especially the area where we get the most money, and that is the Mugahinga, the Buindi Mugahinga sector. So very soon we hope that there will be an improvement on those roads and the aerodromes like I talked about. Kabale Airport is over 90% completion, civil works are ongoing. So yeah, the infrastructure is improving, but we hope and pray that it gets better for us to achieve over and beyond what we committed within the manifesto. The other challenge is inadequate and unskilled manpower, personnel. The quality of personnel to work within the sector is generally low, and that is why we're telling you that we've come up with a policy deliberately now. If you're not regulated, if you've not been trained if you've not been assessed and licensed by UTB, for instance, you won't be able to take any tourists to a park because you don't know how to handle them, you don't know how to explain what they are seeing. So we are going to make it a little bit very difficult for someone who is not up to the standard to continue participating in the sector as a professional when you're not, therefore selling substandard services. So those are some of the things that we are doing. But we believe once we have the institute better, the one we're talking about in new WRTI and UHTTI, we'll be able to produce a better human resource than probably are now. Persistent wildlife conservation challenges, such as poaching, human-wildlife conflict, invasive species. Invasive species are mainly, I think, in Queen, but in a number of our parks. I wish you'd go there and see what we talk about. And if we don't, if we don't move strongly and have them removed or controlled, then very soon you'll find most of the hunting areas or the open plains where the animals would be eating from would be full of these species that have thorns and the rest, and therefore will be pushing even the wildlife outside the protected areas. So it's a big challenge, and we are getting some support from government. Probably we'll have a solution to it in the near future. Fear of lack of poor or lack of internet access, especially in the protected areas. It is good. One of the main coordinators of this interaction is the Ministry of ICT. So it's important that when people are in these parks, they can take selfies and share the way they want. But of course, there is some ongoing discussion with the MTN, and I think there's been some assistance from you. I think to put around maybe 60 masks within some of the protected areas. So yeah, probably some progress. Inadequate quality regulation in the sector. I think we're going to the last slide. So in conclusion, NRM has achieved monumental landmarks on its social contracts with the people as stated in the Nrm Manifesto, especially for the tourism sector. I don't want to speak for any other sector. So out of the 16 commitments on our side that the NRM government made, according to our assessment so far, 87.5% are on track and are likely to be fully achieved by the end of this term. Low progress has been made or realized on mainly two that we highlighted, and these account for around 12.5% of the commitments. And we also believe that by the time the social contract between the party and the people ends, we'll have improved. So at least these are our commitments. We want to thank the NRM government for supporting the tourism sector, and as a sector, we're also committed to do our best so that the social contract that the NRM party made with the people is fulfilled. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.
Yes, let's put our hands once again and give a big applause to the Honorable Minister for that very elaborate presentation. Honorable Minister, thank you so much. And we want to salute the efforts invested in making sure that these commitments, which are part of the contract, are being handled. It's now a session where we are opening a session to the public, members of the media, and other members of the public who are here who may want to raise a few questions or make observations on the presentation you have made. For us, as the people who are tracking the progress, I want to make the following observations. First and foremost, we want to salute the efforts, especially well knowing that the sector was badly hit by the COVID. Looking at the recovery rates that the sector is experiencing through your deliberate efforts is quite commendable. So we salute and take note of that. And secondly, I think the debate has been on that in the circumstances when the economy is not doing well, tourism sector is one of the areas where we can put money and be able to realize some recovery and quick earnings to support the revenue mobilization and other earnings for the country. So we don't know how far you have gone in this effort to share this strategic thinking with the Ministry of Finance, because we look at it as one of the productive sectors which should be supported seriously. So we should be seeing it being part of the budget strategy. Unfortunately, we have not seen the presentation from Minister of Finance, but we would want to see how the finance is prepared to support you in this respect. The other issues are areas where you have touched. I think there is still a challenge on the coexistence between in areas where the parks share boundaries with the districts where there is a human habitation bordering to the national parks. There is still a conflict of coexisting between the animals and and the human beings. You have touched on it, but I think a lot of effort is needed, and we know that the ministry has also been committing some monies to support livelihoods for the people who are living within these neighborhoods. But we don't know whether this money goes and does what exactly it is supposed to do, so that this human-animal conflict is minimized. Maybe you need to do an audit check and see whether this money you sent down to these local governments that are neighboring these parks really send this money to the people who are neighboring, so that they can have alternative livelihood, and it can reduce that conflict. Another issue has been what you have touched on, this Mahatma Gandhi International Convention Center. This one also has not taken off. We don't know for what reason. It seems at one point there was even a threat of withdrawal of this funding by the government of India. I don't know whether now you have settled, whether we have settled as government to make firm decisions. And there were also debates on now the geography. Some others were saying maybe the center is shifted from Jinja to Entebbe, like that. So I don't know whether government now is settled and focused on making sure that this, if it is Jinja, it is Jinja, and then we invest and move forward. Otherwise, we may end up losing this money, because this is something that had even crossed over from the last term's commitments. Government has done very well in improving the tourism roads, especially in the Bunyoro area, which now is whose network now is very, very good. But the area of Kisoro is still in a very, very bad state. And these are areas also where we have our other high revenue earners, the gorillas from the Windi and the Mugahingas. So, and those roads that serve those areas are in a really very, very sorry state. So I don't know how you are moving on with the Minister of Finance and the relevant Minister of Works to make sure that these are prioritized and we are able to have the benefits that should be accruing from the rehabilitation of those tourism roads. Then on the campaign to encourage domestic tourism, we don't know, you have touched on it, but we don't know how. We have also numbers, we are witnessing increase in numbers, but we don't know whether these are the numbers really that we should have visited. Maybe more campaigns are needed. We need to reach out to we need to look at different packages that could lead us to interest Ugandans and enjoy these facilities. So it's an area that also we need to put more effort on, so that maybe as we try to promote the international market, the domestic market could be big, huge, but we don't know, simply because the participation of the locals is probably not as vibrant as it should be. So we need maybe to up our innovations in this area. Honorable Kamontia, in an informal conversation, was touching on the issues of the Chitagata and other areas which had been identified to be promoted. There was also, I think, I don't know whether it doesn't appear here, maybe it was done, of making this Namugongo as a tourist attraction center, because it is becoming, since the pilgrimage had become an international event. And then we had also looked at Kabaka's Lake here in Kampala and many others. Hopefully those have been, the policy has been able to capture these areas in terms of gazettement, and they can now be listed as our tourism potential areas and source of revenue. So that is all we have for you from the manifesto tracking aspects. I now want to open the conversation to you members of the public so that we can have a constructive engagement in this matter. I thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I hope you will allow me to speak while seated, or I can stand. I don't know the protocol.
No worries.
No, thank you very much, Director, Mr. Willis Bashash. I want to thank you very much for this program and for the great work you're doing to fast track what is happening in the country in all the sectors. We really appreciate you and your team for the great work. I also want to thank the Ministry of Tourism and the Minister for what the success they have achieved. 87% is quite a great achievement in 2023. I think they are right on track.
Let's have your name, please.
My name is Atombia Rugaba. I'm the Mayor, NRM Flag Bearer, Katabi Town Council, and I'm also a special delegate who attends the NRM caucus on behalf of the NRM Secretariat. I would like to observe a few things that I believe can make some changes or some observations I've seen that affect our tourism in the country. One is the marketing strategy of the Uganda Ministry of Wildlife. I traveled recently, I've been traveling, but I have, and mostly to destinations where Uganda Airlines is. And our marketing strategy, we've not seen our animals marketed in the magazines, and our tourism centers marketed in the areas around the airports, in Dubai, in Johannesburg, in London. So we are lacking a bit of marketing internationally. And I think we need to look at how we can work on that using our embassies to see that Uganda is reflected internationally out there, and we are known, especially on billboards at the airports of departures and also in some centers. Number two is the development of the airports in Mbarara. I didn't hear you talk about it. I heard you talk about government plans to develop other aerodromes, but Mbarara needs to have special consideration because, as you realize, Mbarara is almost the second capital city of this country in terms of physical development and all the nature of development it has taken over. And most destinations, most people traveling to that airport really having challenges. It would help us do a lot of tourism, quick access to Rwenzori, to Kisoro, and Mbarara itself, Mburo National Park, and that would really help. So we are looking at Mbarara should be classified and given special consideration in the plans that are coming. The development of regional zoos. Honorable Minister, I didn't hear you talk about that. I think it is something that will help, especially in the north, people traveling from Arua or from Sudan, South Sudan, people traveling from Congo to come in and can't access Entebbe or Uganda Wildlife Education Center. It is something that will bring a lot of revenue to this country. If we had regional zoos like Lake Mburo, if you got a zoo around there in Mbarara, you got a zoo in Arua, and those areas, we believe something it can turn into a very good revenue. Of course, give credit to CAA and the government of Uganda for developing Arua Airport. which really looks, now it's an airport or it's an airstrip, but it looks very good, although it needs to be fully given enough parking space and more land procured to handle maybe the other facilities to do the fuel. So I expect maybe you'll talk about that. Sensitization programs, because as you realize, according to your indexes, you've realized that there's a bit, an increment in domestic tourism. And that is attributed to the schools. But the development of the sensitization in terms of forming of wildlife clubs in schools, we used to have them those years when we were in schools. But now, the wildlife clubs have disappeared in our schools, Honorable Minister. I don't know whether you will spearhead a revival so that we can use that to promote domestic tourism once again. And then sensitization in the communities. Recently, we saved an animal which actually we discovered was almost extinct in Uganda. If I wasn't in my community in an area called Kasanje, I had the contact of Uganda Wildlife Education Center and I called them to come and capture this animal which had never been seen in this country before. So maybe with time they will inform you about that specific animal which they thought was extinct. So sensitization of our communities through the local leadership also needs to be put an emphasis on. Honorable Minister, I want to thank you very much for the efforts that have been put in Uganda Wildlife Education Center. I think for that one, it has exceeded its really, the way it looks is looking very good, and we believe the rest of the country should emulate, and if the management there is very good, then we should emulate this kind of system they are using, so that other institutions within your management, especially at the areas where you have the national parks, should come up with that kind of model, and it will help our tourism grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next. This side.
Thank you very much. My name is Dennis Kasule from the Uganda Radio Network. Honorable Minister, for me, I wanted, as Mr. Batasha said, a detailed account of how you've been handling the human-wildlife conflict and the monies which have always been sent to that particular activity. How, just a detail to understand how you are working towards that. Something else which is just looking to the future, your strategy of, because we understand now your docket was increased in financing, at least the parliament came to that. What is your strategy on using this money to sell our country out there? What strategies are you putting down? Because you mentioned one of the challenges you're facing is the marketing and advertising. So what strategies are you having now that your docket was increased a little more? Only those two. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Kamonto.
Master of Ceremony, I want to thank the Minister very much indeed for being very specific on manifesto commitments item by item. And that analytical approach is very good. I also want to thank him as the head of the ministry for fast tracking the recovery of the country from the impacts of COVID. Friends, tourism is so sensitive to outbreaks of such emergencies, as well as security concerns, that the ministry has fast-tracked. The ministry has launched the brand of the country, and remember, foreign exchange earnings, the ministry was top. Now coffee has taken over. But as you can see, it will not take long before you resume your leading position in foreign exchange earning. For that effort, you need to be commended. There are 3 enduring challenges in the ministry. I don't know how you want to do. First one has been hinted upon is the human life, the human and wildlife conflict. This is an enduring challenge. You had introduced electrical fencing and it seemed to have worked. At least the experience in the National Park with Rubirizi district, which was launched by the president, it seemed to have relieved the conflict in that region. Maybe you want to tell us what more effort you're going to do on this one. I don't want to be personal. I have been a victim. Personally, I have been a victim of this conflict. One night was invaded my farm. On one case, a python swallowed my goat, and Makongo knows he took the python together with my goat inside it, and he took it to the national park without compensation, you can imagine. And it is worse, because it is worse in communities which don't have a sense of conservation, because they kill them. For instance, if you could see the zebras on my farm, and cobs, and elephants, they bring ticks, they eat grass, rock salt, water. Now, if you don't have all this one, your animals are going to be killed. The animals are going to be killed. And if animals are a major attraction for tourism, then your selling products is going to be seriously affected. This one is an inherent challenge, and we must find a solution because it has been there for quite some time. The second one, which is again of commendable nature, you have been promoting domestic tourism. We want to emphasize this domestic tourism is your surest bet, because whenever there is a crisis, most international visitors disappear. You only remain with your own people. But your own people need to have an income, because if you don't have an income, it doesn't work. For you to stay in a hotel, you must have money. To eat in a hotel, you must have money. To travel to this hotel, you must have money. So, collectively, it becomes a major challenge for all of us. That's why I think, even in your program, you should include partnership development model, because the moment you increase the incomes of communities, it will help for them to become tourists and promote the sector. Finally, some projects which have been really hanging there for quite some time, I'm sure you can do this. The one Sagada Hot Spring, you started it, it is becoming an embarrassment to the ministry and to those who are associated with it. So also, your hotel training institute, the cost overrun, the time overrun, makes you would really, these are hanging fruits. These are really hanging fruits. If you completed them, they would add value to your work. Master of ceremony, we must thank the Ministry of Tourism, because to be 87% on track, yes, you can, since you track, you can look back, see whether they are tracking methods correspond to what is happening on the ground. but on the basis of the figures they have quoted, this is 87% in 2 years. You still have 3 more years to go. I'm sure you should overshoot the targets they have set in the manifesto, which is commendable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Honorable. I think we shall share with them the formulas. The way I look at it is like they are not far away from the truth, looking at probably the number of commitments that are within this sector and probably what they have been able to achieve and probably those that are in progress. May find this gives us that kind of assessment score. I also want to share with you the commendations. So as a unit, we really, really appreciate how far you have moved. And I think, to me, we need to talk to Minister of Finance to make sure your budget is enhanced, because that sector is one of the productive areas of the economy where we put money and we can have a return on investment quickly realized. Yes, we want to wind up.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Luke Kalanaiti. I'm from Church of Uganda Family TV. My question will go to the Honorable Minister. You talked about government supporting, government is trying to construct a zoo, government is doing a zoo here, things like that. So my question is there a plan for government supporting private sectors, more especially people who want to start up like zoos, private zoos, not government? So is there a plan, and how is government planning to support them?
Okay, lastly.
Dennis again. I think this will go to Uganda Wildlife Authority. I would like to understand what is the update about the unfulfilled concessions, which is signed and the developers have not yet done any development. Nothing is going on. This looks as one thing which is stagnating our domestic tourism. So I only need an update about that.
Okay, there are 2 hands over there.
Thank you, Honorable Minister and Director, for you. Well, Peter, yeah. My question is the conflicting interest between government and the private sector in terms of the OGB. Like the industries which government has really done, what in tourism, as in tourism industry, which have been developed, and some young men have been employed, but you find somebody can take maybe 2 months, 3 months without getting salary. Then also, when you are employed, they don't tell you how much money can you earn, will you earn at the end of the day. So when you talk to the man, you want payment, they may not give it to you, or they may say maybe you can try elsewhere, like some companies. The other one is, what is government planning for people who are graduated, who have their ability to be employed, and yet there is no employment. The employment is limited, and people have struggled in a particular area. What is government planning for them? In tourism, there young men have done tourism courses, and we are looking for jobs, but we can't be absorbed, we can't be employed. In the private sector, it's quite challenging because we don't have the money to begin businesses. What is government planning for that?
Okay, let's have your names again.
Peter, that is my name.
From?
Media.
Yeah. Can you repeat your first question, please?
My question is, the other was the conflict, maybe the need, we young generation need government to help us. We have graduated, we have studied these courses, but we don't have employment at the moment. What is government planning for us, young men?
That was the last one, the first one.
The first one is conflict interest, like areas where there is wildlife, like Minister said. the animals go and destroy their crops.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's move. I think you are...
Thank you.
I'm Isaac Mwakalo, and I report for New Vision. My question to the minister is on cultural tourism. We have some areas in Uganda which are being looked after by the cultural institutions in place, but other areas in Uganda don't have cultural platforms, and yet they have tourist centers. Like, for instance, in Kore, we have Itara Culture Center, we have Chitagata, and other centers which are not completely developed. Yet, private people come and grab such lands and areas. It is now almost 35 and above years with NRM. And what you have concentrated on is only tourism in mountain gorillas, Namugongo, and the like. Why don't you have a strategy to develop our own history such that other nations, like the way we are embracing cultures of Chinese and the like? Why is that the ministry does not have the clear strategy of such areas which are of great interest to both locals and even which can attract the foreign exchange?
Okay, I think that marks the end of, yeah? Last one, yeah?
Thank you very much. My name is Peter Serugo from Daily Monitor. My question to the minister, I'm asking about the marketing of our country. Can we look at sustainable means of marketing our country? For example, when you look at different campaigns, this is where the ministry will get a few partners. Let's say the celebs in this country, they go for a certain campaign, but after the campaign, these are the people who are not going to talk more about what is in the country, but they just go for that campaign. After that campaign, they are not pushing anymore. Can we have sustainability in this? If we have people that these are going to market our country, let's not just use them for a certain campaign and then we just drop them. Can we have that sustainability?
You keep pushing, eh?
Thank you so much, the Honorable. I'm Kwesiga Rogers, and my question would go to you, sir. We have had a new slogan that has been brought up by Uganda Tourism Board, Explore Uganda. Can't we build that more to other affiliations of sports so that we also brand our country more than the interior of Uganda, but also to the exterior of Uganda? Thank you.
Okay. I want to thank you all for your observations and questions. Honorable Minister, now I will once again invite you to come and respond. And you are also at liberty to invite any of your technical people to complement your responses. If you don't mind, you can stay there, but I think the media would want you here to capture you, but feel at home.
Thank you, Director. And I want to thank you all for the questions that have been raised. First of all, the issues that were raised by the Directorate that is in charge of the manifesto implementation through the Director. First of all, we've had engagements with Ministry of Finance. We've had engagements with Parliament. We've had engagements with His Excellency the President. We've had discussions in Cabinet about the importance of enhancing the tourism budget as a sector that would definitely contribute a lot in growing this country into a middle-income state. And there's been some commitment, there's been some support. That's why you see one of the journalists from Uganda Radio Network was saying at least you got some increment compared to the previous year. Yeah, so there is some support. We believe we can still get more, but we understand that there are so many competing interests within government and the resources not adequate for everyone. But the engagements are on, and our prayer is if finance comes here, you can also try to tell them that it's important to support this sector. Now, the issue of human-wildlife conflict is a huge problem, and maybe later on, Makombo will speak to it a bit. First of all, when we are doing conservations, there are some things that, under the Uganda Wildlife Act, that we are mandated to do as a ministry, as well to support the communities around the protected areas. And the first one is out of all the entry fees that are paid by visitor getting into any protected area, 20% of those monies actually given to the communities around the parks. And these are quite a huge amount. Before COVID, they were much bigger. Now, because of COVID, and they may not be as big. But you'd find maybe a community or a district getting around 400, 500, even a district getting $1 billion shillings out of these entry fees. And we even went ahead and changed the way of distribution of this money by changing it from, because before it would go to the district and the district would plan for it. And sometimes it would disappear there. Then the sub-county gets what is left from the district. Then the actual parish gets almost nothing. Now the guidelines have changed. This money actually directly goes to benefit the parishes surrounding the parks. And it's these communities that sit and decide what projects they want to do as a community. And this has created some bit of impact amongst these communities. But also, the law also tells us that of all the revenues that we collect, 2% of those monies should go into a fund that is to deal with compensation of those that are affected, whether by death, whether your crops are destroyed, like a professor's goat that disappeared into a python's stomach. So there is a provision. But of course, if you look at the numbers, for instance, what we just read to you, that by the end of the year 2022, we had around 7,300 cases that needed compensation. Now, if you see what we had in the fund, because we can only collect 2%, but also, of course, the law also provides that in a scenario where we cannot meet the amount needed for compensation, then we can talk to government and they can give us some more support from the consolidated fund to support the efforts of the 2% that would have been collected. So, just to give you a scenario, if probably now, I think would be lucky if UA has around 2 billion for compensation in its account of the 2%. So you can imagine 2 billion vis-a-vis 7,000 cases. It can't do much. And that's what we are saying. But even if we increase this money, compensation should not be the solution. It is difficult to manage. It is tedious. And we will never have enough resources to compensate people adequately. So that's why we are saying that the best way forward would be to have these areas fenced off. And like Professor Kamund said, indeed the electric fence works. It's been effective so far. And hopefully, if we have it in all the protected areas, then the better, so we can resolve this issue once and for all. But yes, it is a challenge. The animals are animals. Usually when we go to meet these communities, we tell them, what do you want us to do? If we as human beings can fight amongst ourselves, brothers and sisters, what of these innocent, and our mandate is just to some people say we love them more than the people. Actually, the NRM Secretariat, if you go to any protected area, one thing they will tell you, even if it was the president, that you don't like us Ugandans anymore, you've decided to love animals than we the human beings. That's what they say usually. But we are saying no. We are protecting them for you. Even when creation was in place, God put them in place. We are just keeping them for you so the rest of the generation. But we understand the challenge, and we are doing whatever it is. And we are not only using the electric fence as an intervention. We're also doing trenches in some areas. We are doing some walls for hippos. We are doing what we can to see that that we resolve the issue, but we acknowledge the fact that it's a problem. Now, on the issue of the infrastructure, like I said, yes, some good work has been done. We talked about the aerodromes, but also specifically in the area of Kisoro, where we've been having a number of challenges, mainly because of the terrain, but also because of the rains, because there's a good forest cover there, and a bit of now we have very good security there. But I want to thank government that His Excellency the President, that recently made a good directive, and especially when finance comes, because we make 60% of the revenues we are talking about in the tourism sector are just from the gorilla trekking. And I believe we can even make more money out of this if we make the infrastructure much easier. So if we have, for instance, if you look at the aerodrome in Kisoro, it lands around 2 planes every single day, just going for gorilla trekking. But when you land and then you have a problem accessing the actual gorilla, it becomes a challenge. So I want to thank the President for those directives, and I believe there is commitment from Ministry of Works. If finance can also commit so that we can have these areas more motorable for people to enjoy more. Now, on the issue of domestic tourism campaigns, and just to maybe add up with indeed, of course, we can only do what we can, but deliberately still, as a ministry under OA, we have tailored particular packages that make it very easy for Ugandan to travel vis-a-vis the white person. For instance, a Ugandan entering the park will pay around 20,000 shillings to enter the park. A foreign non-resident will pay around $40. So you can imagine the difference. If you look at a gorilla tracking permit, for instance, in most of these areas, a foreigner will pay around $700, a Ugandan will pay $250. And that is why there's even a deliberate move, because what most Ugandans usually say, which I believe is actually sometimes due to lack of information, is that accommodation is extremely expensive in most of these protected areas. But still through UA, first of all, we are giving concessions to work against the monopoly in most of these protected areas. If we have a number of people come and put up lodges, then of course, somehow competition will make most of these people lower the prices and also cater. But we have some we are working with that are giving fairly good prices. But there are also what we call some banders that have been constructed and are being managed by OA, and we even advertised for them to be expanded, where someone can even go to a protected area without sleeping in a camp and pay 35,000, 50,000 shillings for accommodation. So we are doing all this in consideration of the Ugandan traveler to go and be a part, first of all, appreciate the beauty of this country, but also contribute to the development. Because if you go and you eat food from the local communities, somehow there is a ripple effect that impacts the whole community. So the numbers are good. Specific to the numbers, if you look at our entries, for instance, if we just focus on the parks, interestingly, Director, just to tell you, before COVID, the highest number that had been registered by people visiting the parks, both East Africans, Ugandans, and foreigners, was around, in 2019, it was around 320,000 visitors to the parks. By the time we closed the year 2022, it had gone to 360,000. So we had actually, despite the COVID challenges, we had surpassed the pre-COVID entry levels into the parks. So this, but we can give you more numbers, but this is mainly because of these deliberate measures that we are taking, but also the marketing campaigns. And like you said, I know we engage some influencers, celebrities as well, those that we can afford. Some actually say, no, you're underpaying me. And we tell them, but you're Ugandan. The mandate of marketing this country is for everyone. And they say, no, I'm supposed to be paid for my time. Those that you see us move with are those that we can manage within that particular period of time. But thank God, Ugandans are now picking up and they're visiting and they're posting the beauties about most of these areas. Now, on the issue of cultural tourism, first of all, we have a department called the Museums and Monuments Department. We passed a bill recently. Unfortunately, it was sent back, but still we managed to repass it through Parliament. And that bill gazettes a number of protected sites for culture, and some of them are even private. Now, the argument is, even if in an area, for instance, even if the land is owned by you privately, but there is some national interest to what is either beneath or on top of that land, is then you'll have to manage how you use the land. We are not saying don't use it, but you use it and protect what we believe is of national interest beyond you as an individual, so that the other people can benefit. So this law is in place. As soon as it is assented to, we'll publish a list of these protected areas, and they've been there long before we were even born. So it doesn't matter whether it is private or it is government, somehow we'll regulate how you manage most of these areas where government has a national interest. Of course, there are still some challenges, but yeah, slowly there is some improvement. Now, from Mr. Vyaruhanga, I think I've talked about the marketing strategy. Yes, it's true, in the previous years, we're giving most of our embassies some small contribution to help us market destination Uganda in some of these source markets. I don't know about next financial year, but somehow we also participate under UTB, which is the main marketing arm of the ministry, in quite a number of expos in most of these source markets. But also the private sector, like I said, we move in turn, we are partners. The private sector also has a way of looking for business on its own, so they somehow also market. But we believe with time, but we can only do this within our budgets. We can't go out of them. So like I showed you that one of the gaps that we have is still marketing, but slowly we are getting there. And now that we have, because before, even if you marketed when you don't have a specific brand speaking to Uganda, it would be a problem. Someone called it a slogan. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa is not a slogan. It is actually the brand that speaks for Uganda as a destination. On the issue of wildlife clubs, I think a special work, and they have also subsidized prices. It's so easy to enter there. But we all believe that these things need to be brought back to life so that people can understand conservation from a tender age. And I think this would help us solve most of the issues that we raise today. Mr. Kasule, human wildlife conflict money, I think I've spoken about that a little bit. Increased budget. Well, first of all, the budget is also, there is because you see, under conservation, for instance, we have Uganda Wildlife Authority. We want to thank government where we managed to, I think, recruit around an additional 850 rangers to help us in managing poaching, human wildlife conflict, and the rest. So some of these monies will go to that. We have a bit of product development. We have a lot of product in this country that needs to be developed. So it's not necessarily that the budget increment is going to be for marketing per se. It could be going to, mainly actually, it is for product development. So, but we want to thank government still for that support. The Professor Kamuntu, compensation, and I wish Mr. Makombo, you make sure I find a way of returning the professor's goat or something. But these are challenges across really. And Kitagata Hot Springs, we've done some work. There are also a few issues around the hot spring. Because you see, the interesting about government is government cannot put any establishment in an area unless it's guaranteed of the land ownership. So any small conflicts over particular areas becomes a very big problem for investment. Sometimes actually we have the money, we hold it for long because of small unresolved issues within the communities. Because most of the land is not owned by us, it's by the community. So if they don't resolve, then it becomes a challenge. So I think those are a few issues around Kitagata and a number of Kagulu. But now we are making some progress. And now, on the issue of the private sector, someone talked about the zoos. I think it was Lukarini Twe. Well, still to do with the zoos. There are a number of zoos that are owned by the private sector that I know of. I visited one in Mbale. I visited one in Mpiji. And there are so many. And whoever wants to apply can come and apply. There is a procedure you use, and we'll even give you some animals so that you increase on the number of stock that you have in your zoo. So you can be able to make money, but also help us extend the information about, or education about the national animals. So we partner with the private sector and would be glad to also be going out to do the regional museums that we are talking about. Now, unfulfilled concessions by OA, of course, and if you saw in our presentation, deliberately we said this time round that of the 20 new identified sites where we would be doing some advertisement soon, we are working through Uganda Investment Authority. Because there has been a problem, a big procurement problem, just like any other government contract. Whoever wants to build a hotel goes through, and it is tedious. It takes time, clearance from this agency to the other. But when we had a meeting with His Excellency the President, he actually gave a directive, and we are having engagements that for such procurements, they shouldn't go through, because this is actually an investor. Someone is coming from elsewhere with his money. Why subject him to these tedious processes? Yet he'll be doing us good. We are saying we need accommodation in the parks. So we want to thank him because he intervened, and I think soon we shall harmonize and have a position to make this easy for everyone who participates or wants to construct accommodation here. On the issue of, I didn't get his question well, but I think we were talking about employment in tourism, and yes, we agree, and we believe that, and of course, we also tell our people in the tourism sector, because the biggest employers in the tourism sector are the hotel owners, those in hospitality. But we also encourage them, please, don't employ your relatives, don't employ your auntie, employ people that are professional, because they are doing us a disservice. You go somewhere at a restaurant to eat food, and someone serves you like he's doing you a favor. So we're encouraging them, because some of them don't want to pay the right amount of money, you know, because these are professional people. Also encourage, and soon we shall start regulating them on probably who they even employ. So we believe that this can be a solution to some of these problems. I've talked about the cultural setters and the bill. I've talked about, I think, the influencers as well. Now, on the issue of, as I conclude, on the issue of sports, and I want to thank a number of our sports people. You know, whenever they are out there, they are equally supporting Uganda or raising the flag of Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. And we've had collaborations with them. Some are actually from UA, some are from wherever they are from. But we've been working together with the, I think we were even in Kisoro, in Teriet, in the high altitude area with the, what's his name? With the current gold. Chiplimo. But anyway, all of them that we've been working with, and I think the other day you also saw Rob Walker here. Rob Walker came because of their influence. So somehow we have a collaboration with the Ministry of Sports through Honorable Gwang to see how also sports is used as an opportunity to market our country. So I want to thank you so much, but let me just say this as I leave. Now that we have the media here, I think one of the biggest challenges we have from the media is how we report about Uganda. I have never seen people who are so careless about reporting about a country like Ugandans. It is just, you cannot see it elsewhere. You just cannot. And like you said, tourism is a very sensitive sector. Very, very sensitive. A small comment will have cancellations the following day. Just something someone tweets about jokingly. But you see who you will have affected. Someone has been booked. A hotel owner will be affected if, let's say, there are 10 cancellations. From the tour operator, to the tour guide, to the hotel owner, to the vehicle driver, to the hotel, it is a whole value chain. And like we've told you, if you saw our figures, out of every 10 people employed in this country, 2 are directly employed in the tourism sector. And we're not saying the indirect ones. So it is just, hopefully you people just report well about this. After all, it is yours, whether you want it or not. The differences should not make us report carelessly. So I thought I would say that. Thank you so much. If there is an issue that has not been responded to, maybe you can come and respond, either Makombo or Liada. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister and the Director, colleagues. I think this is a very good time for us to talk together, especially to see how the tourism sector is actually taking the country forward. I'm not just talking about what the Minister has left out, but just to enhance what he has talked so that possibly we can understand it and report it better. I think human-wildlife conflict is really a big issue that always comes out whenever we meet like this. And probably we need to understand that human-wildlife conflict is just an issue that is caused by factors which are human also. Colleagues, in the 70s, we used to have corridors, and the animals used to move all the way from Tanzania up to Sudan, South Sudan. But because of our population pressure, we have increased now. We have over 40 million. Possibly in the 70s, we used to be only about 10. So we have actually over-increased. The population is high, and we have occupied habitats that used to be occupied by wildlife. In some cases, just like the director said, we have humans in some of these protected areas. And so, we have got definitely a conflict is going to happen because these animals, especially our elephants, still remember their tracks, areas where they used to pass. And up to today, they still have that memory. And that's why you actually keep seeing people in Inoya being disturbed by elephants that keep moving north-south from Murchison Falls to southern Sudan. Around the December, you'll always get problems in Adjumani because elephants tend to move southwards from South Sudan into Uganda, and they find so many mangoes and eat them and destroy, and that's where the conflict comes from. And then we have opened more land for agriculture. That's another area. Everywhere you go. If you go to Murchison Falls, I was in Kiriandongo recently, I took a photo and there is a clear boundary between the park and the crops, and you don't see any buffer. Windy the same, Queen Elizabeth the same. Everywhere that you go, you find a very clear boundary between the garden and the animal habitat. In fact, even if it is you, that's why even us humans, when they put meat here, they put fish, and then they put beans the other side, you tend to go for the meat, muchomo first. And this is what is happening with the animals also. When they see these palatable crops, they don't struggle to go for these bushes. They first go for the palatable, very nutritious and very easy to get. And that's why some of these conflicts are actually big. But yes, we are not going to look on just aside. These human habitations in the national parks, we are already in talks with the Office of the Prime Minister. And you must have heard the President keeps emphasizing that we must move people from dangerous places like Mount Elgon and bring them down to the lower slopes. This program has started and it is being followed. Karamoja, remember during the security situation, people were moving around and they had not settled. With the security in Karamoja, and without a lot of sensitization, some of the people settled in protected areas. And some of these places, we have contained them, waiting for the resettlement program, and we shall do that as a government. Either we buy extra land or we provide alternative places where they can stay. Regarding the wildlife, in fact, the crop raiding, we are working very, very hard We want to ensure that people's property are protected. Just like the minister reported, we already have 106 kilometers of the electric fence. By the end of 2024, we want to add another 100 kilometers. Recently, the Committee on Government Assurances visited Queen Elizabeth, and the people in Rubirizi are very, very happy. We have an entire 20 kilometers in that district, which were started by Honorable Kamuntu, and we have increased that length. We therefore have another 110 kilometers that we're going to do with the World Bank funding. We hope that if we do that, the critical hotspot human-wildlife conflict areas like Queen Elizabeth, Murchison Falls, will have been covered. Now, by 2026, we should have also dealt with the Karenga issue, because that's a major human-wildlife conflict area that we want to ensure that we cover and stop most of the cries that we have been getting from communities. And so, even with the compensation, you know, there are certain areas which are outside protected areas that are managed by Uganda Wildlife Authority, like you've been having stories from Bunyoro, stories from around Lake Victoria. Some of these places are very difficult. Even the communities are not being very cooperative. They know, for example, in Lake Victoria, there are hippos with the babies. But that's where they want to go, because those hippos have got droppings. The dung that they drop into the water are actually the ones that create food for the fish. So near the hippo is where you get the food for the fish. And so they also want to venture to get that fish which is near the hippo, but they are with canoes. And because of that, the hippos get threatened, and a hippo with a baby is the most dangerous animal also. So most of these people have been attacked by hippos and killed or drowned, because hippos will usually hit the canoes and the people will drown. But we have done a number of sensitizations, we have raised the signposts, but people never listen. And that's a problem that we are getting when it comes to human-wildlife conflict. You advise, you know, you plant crops near the park. Definitely, if it is maize, the elephants will come and pick them and eat them. The cobs will eat and enjoy. But people will never listen to that. They want to, even when you talk, we have talked and talked and talked. We have raised the radio programs. So it's just an attitude issue. And so our alternative is therefore to close these places and see people safe, because we are government, we cannot leave them exposed to the danger. So compensation, we have already commenced the program, and we have the regulation in place. So we have commenced, we have already compensated about 38 cases, and this actually amounted to about 90 million. So we are going to handle another 75 cases by the end of this month, and I think these 75 are going to have to be more. But the problem with the communities, they submit files that are incomplete, because the regulation is very clear. And we have done a lot of sensitization again about it. If you're coming to claim for compensation, you come with the LOC1 letter. The LOC1 chairman must have seen. In some cases, you go to police. If it is a human being, please come with a doctor's report. If this person died, come with a postmortem report. Okay? If it is an animal, you have a veterinary officer who is going to establish the cost. Okay? And so it will be easier. For example, at the farm of Professor Kamuntu, we had some losses of a cow. And you know the evidence must be there on site before you call the Wildlife Authority to come and verify. So the manager calls the wildlife staff. They come, they find when the manager has already sold off the what? The carcass. Now, there is no evidence on ground to show that actually an animal what? An animal died. So you have nothing to actually value that there was something that died here. But already they have already reported to the owner of the farm. Now, because of that, professor will think that this Makombo man possibly doesn't want to compensate. But I can tell you, I want to compensate these animals because I want communities to be peaceful. So for those that submitted completed files, we have already allocated money for compensation to them. And those that have not yet completed their files, who have requested for more information so that we can complete the compensation. So we shall keep moving until such a time when we can complete the boundaries of the park, secure them, and then also secure the communities. But even if it is compensation, you know, it disrupts livelihood. So the best is for people to put in place the right interventions. If you have cows, why don't you put a better kraal so that you can protect these cows from the animals? So in terms of human conflicts, I think I will stop there, but I want to talk briefly about domestic tourism. Colleagues, if you look at the trend now, domestic tourism is actually doing very well. By the end of 2022, domestic tourism was 63% of the guests that we are getting into the parks. And the foreign residents and non-foreign residents were only 37%. So you can see that if we do a lot of marketing, Ugandans, we can get more and more Ugandans. What we are actually working on is to provide accommodation within our protected areas. And that's why our ministry has deliberately looked at putting up facilities that are budget, accommodate the budget tourists. Even a Ugandan should be able to sleep in a protected area and be comfortably and pay. If you go to Lake Mburu now, you'll get very good rooms, nice rooms that are even better than what you see in Mbarara. And that's what we want to put in these protected areas, so that when you get there, you should be able to sleep comfortably. We are looking at having about 5 facilities, 2 in Queen, 1 in Murchison, another one in Kidepo. So we are going to enlarge also and increase the bed capacity in Lake Mburu. So once we do that, you can be sure that every guest that comes as a Ugandan is going to have accommodation. In fact, by 2026, we want to have 800 beds in our protected areas. That's what we are trying to have. And we are going to meet this target if we get these concessions passed through the Uganda Investment Authority procurement process, because that was not lengthy. You get an investor who is interested and give him a site, and that site is completed, constructed in a short time. That's what we are going to do in terms of domestic tourism. So, in addition to that, we want to do quarterly open days in these protected areas. So we invite the Ugandans, they come on an open day, they enjoy, and then come out, like over the weekend. And then we want also to have open days around Christmas, especially for Ugandans. In fact, if you go to Queen, there is an open day for the communities on the 26th. That's the same thing with the Lake Mburu. So that people can come, enjoy, and then get out. But also we need to work on our attitudes as Ugandans. A Ugandan would want to go to Dubai and spend millions of money, and yet this person can spend some money here in Murchison Falls so that we can increase and improve our economy. And of course, when it comes to you, our journalists, you know, the minister was very, very clear. If you look at the headlines at the front page, it is Ebola. isn't it? It is homosexuality. It is terrorism. So you're actually promoting terrorism. That's what you're promoting. But, you know, in other countries, some of that news is hidden just inside there. It is there, but it is hidden. And if it is on the top, it is written positively. But I can tell you with Ugandans, that's what we do. So when the Honorable Minister was saying, you people, you hate Uganda, that's what you do for Uganda. You really publish Uganda negatively. But we have started engaging journalists. We have started taking them to the protected areas, and we continue to take them. This coming financial year, we should be able to take more journalists. I want you people to link up with Hanji so that we can expose you to what we have in the protected area, and then you sell on behalf, because you are going to be another selling point for us as a country. Lastly, I want to talk about the wildlife clubs. Colleagues, you know, we have not been having a lot of funds, but we are going to revitalize the wildlife clubs of Uganda. You know, we now are increasing the capacity and the funding for the community conservation unit. We are also bringing back the East Africa Wildlife Society. We are re-engaging them because it used to be the one revitalizing, and then the wildlife clubs of Uganda. Once we have these two, we should be able again to have schools being registered, and we continue taking them into the protected areas. But at every end of term, we have always given concessions to schools that would wish to visit these protected areas. We give them some of the discounts that are necessary for them to visit. Even when the parents are paying heftily, but we don't look at that, we still give discounts to students. So encourage the students, our colleagues, let them come, encourage the school owners, let them come, so that our children, right from the young age, they must learn and know the contribution of wildlife to the GDP. I thank you, sir, and I hope, colleagues, this has answered some of the questions that you needed to be answered. Okay, private zoos, actually, we have started private sector. The minister talked about the zoo in Mbale. We have another one in Kabale. My muzee there used to have the Uganda crocs in Buama. And these are things that we are continuing to give out. We have people who have applied for ostriches, ranches. If you go to Zimbabwe, now we have someone called Kaipio, who has a very good zoo, very nice. So you can visit those places. We are supporting private sector to ensure that they have come up with these initiatives. Thank you very much.
That applause is not worth what we have received today. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister and your team. Allow me to thank you once again. And I want to thank you, members of the public and all viewers. By the way, what I didn't tell you is that we are streaming live these activities, and the whole country is watching, not only here, but also even in the whole world, where whoever is on TV and can access either NBS or UBC can be able to see what's going on here. And we want to thank you, our media team, and the professionals who are behind these messages. We are also informed we are trending very well on the social media because of the messages that are going there. Please give these messages to our young people also to appreciate what is going on in this country. Many of them don't have time to read the New Vision and the other print media, but at least they have time for their social media to look through. So we want to thank you, our warriors who are within the house and are trying to update these people. Honorable Minister, we will now request you to have a photo opportunity when we are done after here. I think all said and done. Thank you so much. I take pleasure to close this session officially. Once again, we'll catch up tomorrow. around 8 as we continue with the program presentations by other cabinet members for the day. I thank you once again. Thank you so much. It's behind here.
Hello, my name is Dr. Henry Dungu, a consultant in hematology and oncology. Health promotion and disease prevention programs focus on keeping people healthy. They aim to engage and empower individuals and communities to choose healthy behaviors and make changes that reduce the risk of developing chronic diseases and other illnesses. Join me on New Health Chat every Thursday at 9 p.m. on UBC TV, sponsored by National Medical Stores, who are mandated to procure, store and distribute essential medicines and medical supplies to all public health facilities in the country.
This week on UBC.
Giver of life, Alpha without Omega. I am Africa.
Hail to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, a land with the world's most beautiful, captivating features. Hills, mountains and valleys, the enigmatic animal species in the wild. A land where Africa is condensed into one small country with authentic endowment of nature and perfect safari. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, is without the crowds with abundant primates, wildlife and stunning scenery. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, takes you beyond the guidebooks, the known features and gives you the insights unmatched. Keep it UBC TV, where we inspire Uganda with authentic beauty and nature of our motherland. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Discover the fountain.
UBC, inspiring Uganda. A logical, deeper conversation.
How many teachers in Uganda did you consult? But there's a mistake we are making. Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
We went to this school, we ran it Western, we ran it Northern, we ran, then you come. Isn't that an achievement?
Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are not counting,
don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality. So what I'm saying
that's
is
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak Luo.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
I think what is going to kill the parish model are all the misconceptions on how it's supposed to run.
I know that the Prime Minister is listening.
Behind the headlines.
Charles, let us agree. We liberalized the economy. We are several nations put it together. Why don't you appreciate that? What if it fails? I'm happy and he's a good lawyer because Amin is not in power.
The parish development committee is functional. It is there. That there is a parish chief, that the beneficiary is doing.
So we look at expenditure, we don't look at revenue, and that is the challenge we are giving them from Minister of Finance.
Your fountain of new knowledge, flowing into the mass body of knowledge.
First get the knowledge of Bukedia, how they want to be modernized.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
You return money to the treasury, which is meant for the people.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Did you know that our #1 value as a nation is to respect and protect the environment? With the current population increase of Uganda and industrialization, this has increased pressure on the natural resources, resulting into environmental degradation and global warming. Developing countries like Uganda could face 80% of the global climate change effects by the year 2030 if no action is taken. Join us here on UBC TV, Inspiring Uganda, on our Eco Plus program, where we bring you an in-depth analysis of issues that are disastrous to our environment. Every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. only on your loved station, the National Broadcaster.
Kickstart your week with the best entertainment. We bring you the latest in showbiz.
And unlike what the newspapers were reporting, I wasn't doing cocaine, narcotics. No, it was a prescription drug. And I was taking this prescription drug because I had an injury of my back.
Oh mama tetema, tipo tetema. Oh mama tetema, aya twende tetema. Oh mama tetema, shuka chini tetema. Oh mama tetema.
Fashion, tech and gadget news, and your countdown. Join us Monday to Thursday. Jam 101. We set the pace.
Wagalango to the wali.
Walking is a record-breaking form of movement. If we take an average of 7,500 steps per day, the recommended amount, with a stride length of about 0.8 meters, then we end up walking 6 kilometers every day. At the end of an 80-year life, we'll have walked around 175,000 kilometers. That's if everything runs smoothly, which it often doesn't. Aches and pains are common, such as in the knee joints or the Achilles tendons. The human body is vulnerable, even just walking. So what can be done about it? That's coming up on In Good Shape, DW's health show. Walking is a result of evolution. The fact that we walk upright is thanks to an anatomical detail. This study shows how the human foot can be stiff, allowing us to efficiently push off when we walk or run. This was a crucial stage in the evolution of bipeds. And this is what allows our foot to be rigid, the arched shape of the midfoot. Other primates have completely flat feet. From head to toe, our bodies move thanks to numerous bones, muscles and joints, plus tendons. And those are what we're going to have a closer look at now.
In the mythological Trojan War, the Greek army was led by the warrior Achilles. He was supposedly impervious to enemy weapons and attacks. Achilles' mother, the goddess Thetis, was said to have dipped him in the river Styx as an infant, which bestowed on him the invulnerability of the gods. Only his heel remained dry. Achilles was struck by a poisoned arrow on exactly that spot, killing the demigod on the battlefield. It's no coincidence that in mythology, the heel was Achilles' weak point. It's the location of the body's thickest and strongest tendon, and is still referred to as the Achilles tendon. It transmits power from the calf muscles to the heel bone and withstands a tremendous burden each day. Whether we're walking, running, or jumping, the Achilles tendon helps propel the body forward. It functions a bit like a coil spring, storing and then releasing energy. When we bend our foot, the tendon is stretched and then retracts for the next step. With targeted training, we can increase its elasticity, which in turn increases our ability to jump. Everywhere in our body where joints are moved by muscles, tendons play a role, even when we grasp with our fingers or chew some food. The structure of our tendons is what makes them so stable and flexible. Collagens and elastin make up fibrils, and bundles of those make up fibers. Some of our tendons are protected by tendon sheaths, but the Achilles tendon only has a layer of skin as protection. Where tendons meet joints, there are small fluid-filled sacs called bursae to reduce friction and inflammation. But just like Achilles' heel, tendons can become a weak point if they get injured. Unlike other tissues, tendons have a low blood supply. That means they need more time to heal.
Soccer fans may remember this moment from the European Championship. Italy's Leonardo Spinazzola ruptured his Achilles tendon. He was carried off the pitch on a stretcher. The tournament was over for him. But you don't have to be a professional athlete to develop problems with your Achilles tendon.
Hopping about, running, or walking, our Achilles tendons do serious hard labor. Hardly surprising, they sometimes seize up, say these three experts.
The Achilles tendon can become very painful, especially when we demand too much of it, or in combination with other risk factors like weight, age, and malposition of the foot.
In the end, it can really alter the structure of the tendon, and then the real problems begin.
It's really painful, and patients' everyday lives become highly constrained.
Something Amin Haddon found out. He's athletic, but during an exercise on the leg press, something went wrong. His Achilles tendon was soon swollen and hurt when he was walking.
Because the tendon was so swollen, it felt like I was carrying an extra burden.
He's not the first to experience that. But where does the pain come from? In its healthy state, the Achilles tendon consists of collagen fibers running in parallel, which are both tensile and elastic at the same time. But if they become strained, it can lead to small tears in the tendon. The body responds with a provisional repair, with new fibers growing haphazardly. New blood vessels sprout to improve tendon nourishment. But these new blood vessels deform the tendon, which becomes swollen and sensitive. It loses its flexibility and becomes even more prone to new tears. Because the Achilles tendon metabolism is so slow, it can take months before the tissue has regenerated and returns to normal.
The pain should be seen as a warning sign. It's a sign of the alterations in the Achilles tendon that something there is changing.
And when there's damage, it's madness to keep irritating it, because that only worsens the damage and causes more pain.
Amin Hadden wasn't aware that he should listen to his tendon. He carried on training for an important run, and suddenly it seized up. His orthopedist immediately stopped him from any running and prescribed physiotherapy to support the healing process. His physiotherapist began with a special treatment called a cross-friction massage.
The excess input into the tissue hinders the pain signals, which means you lower the pain sensitivity somewhat.
Incremental load increases shouldn't be attempted before this stage, though it is important that the ankle moves. Pure rest is no help at all. Michael Wagner shows his patients certain stretching and strengthening exercises to do at home. This type of training supports the healing process.
It's very important to do this twice a day, because these exercises stabilize and above all structure the tendon.
Physiotherapy can only help Amin Hadden if he repeats the exercises regularly at home for months. He needs to be patient for over half a year before he'll be able to run again. In some cases, the root of the problem is excess strain. For others, the problems start with bad posture, as with Johannes Müller. An injury to his right leg led him to putting excess weight on his left leg for weeks on end. After 2 months, his left foot suddenly began to hurt.
I was limping. I could only put stress on the balls of my feet, so I couldn't walk properly.
Orthopedist Kai Uthoff sees immediately that the steady excess burden on the left foot was too much for the Achilles tendon. He checks the tendon's tissues using ultrasound, and he can see structural changes in the tendon, along with calcification.
We also want to differentiate. Is it a small tear? Is it perhaps an inflammation? Or is it actually a degeneration with calcification? We can highlight that with the ultrasound and base our choice of treatment on the results.
But since cross-friction and stretching alone haven't done much for Johannes Müller, he and his orthopedist take another approach and try to promote the healing process with shock-wave therapy. The shock waves are pulsed at varying intensity deep into the tissue. It can boost the tendon's metabolism while breaking up badly patched tissue.
The shock waves dissolve adhesions, promote tissue healing, and also destroy calcium clusters.
It's a treatment that has generally produced good results so far.
After the first session, you don't notice anything. After the second, I felt it was less painful. I noticed something was changing. After the fourth session, I was already pain-free and was already able to move my foot and tendon the way I used to.
Kai Uthoff doesn't just check a patient's Achilles tendons, he looks at the whole body. Because if anything is out of kilter, it can strain the tendons. Johannes Müller's feet lean slightly inwards. To compensate for that, he's prescribed orthopedic insoles, which ease the pull on his tendons. Combined with his daily stretching exercises, that should see him recover well. The Achilles is our strongest tendon, but it's very sensitive and doesn't always get better by itself.
From the strongest tendon to the largest joint in our body, the knee. It's also the most complex joint. Inflammations at the kneecap, bursa capsule or patellar tendon can be extremely painful. A cruciate ligament tear, whether anterior or posterior, or meniscus damage is often caused by too much strain, for example, during sports.
Niklas Huls was playing soccer for his club in 2015 when disaster struck.
Just as I got the ball past my opponent, I put all my power into my left knee to follow through behind it, and my knee broke away to the side and jackknifed backwards. Everyone on the sidelines, including my father, heard it. I knew that something awful had just happened.
They'd heard the sound of Nicholas snapping his left cruciate ligament, the fibrous tissue connecting the shin bone to the thigh. The two menisci were also torn.
It was really bad, one of the worst injuries you can possibly have in sports.
It was a catastrophe for Niklas Huls. Besides soccer, he also loves playing tennis and skiing. Skiing and soccer accidents are behind most cruciate ligament ruptures.
I was in the process of applying to join North Rhine-Westphalia's state police. Well, that dream went straight onto the back burner. It was over for the time being. Straight away, they said they couldn't take me on with that kind of an injury.
After 3 months waiting for the swelling to go down, Niklas underwent surgery on his knee.
I was certainly quite worried. I didn't know if the operation would go off okay without complications.
The surgeon tackled his meniscus first. The team used a camera to evaluate the extent and location of the problem. Then a tendon was transplanted to replace Niklas's ruptured ligament.
We've been successfully operating on cruciate ligaments since the 80s. Back then it was usually open knee surgery, definitely more difficult. The arthroscopy we have today makes everything more efficient, safer and, when you look at professional soccer players, faster. They're often playing again within months, which is not exactly medically advisable.
The doctors used arthroscopy or keyhole surgery on Niklas's knee.
Knee arthroscopy's bad reputation has a bit to do with when people did follow-up checks on patients with arthritis in the knee, and joints were well on the way to needing prosthetic replacement. There's no question that arthroscopy is of very little help there, but that turned into a generalized reputation, and the bad results were associated with all kinds of arthroscopy, so knee arthroscopy doesn't deserve its bad name.
5 years after his accident, Niklas Huls is back for another checkup on his knee.
What else are you doing? Are you still exercising the muscles? The thigh?
Yes, I run a lot and do muscle exercises. I always stretch before sport.
Okay. How about the meniscus? It was a bit problematic.
I feel it, but it doesn't limit me or cause me pain.
When you do this, you'll notice it. Normally you wouldn't notice it here.
I do a little.
But you can live with it.
Yes, and there's no pain so far.
Okay, or we'll have to take a closer look again. Stability seems to be fine. It's rock solid here. Lovely.
Niklas Huls had to wait over a year after surgery before he could get back into sport. He plays tennis regularly. Today he's playing his brother Noah. He has to warm up first, especially his once injured knee.
If I compare it with my good knee, if I pull that one towards me, I can reach my backside no problem. But with the other knee, that's impossible. It's not like there's a bad pain, it just won't go any further.
5 years after his operation, Niklas Huls is back to regular soccer and tennis. In fact, his tennis team has just been promoted, and he also applied to join the police force again. This time he was fit enough. Today, he's a policeman.
Do you have a question about nutrition, fitness, or therapies? Ask us. Our In Good Shape experts will answer. Just send us an email. The digital office is open. Running or jogging as a sport? Some simply do it to stay fit, others want to break records. In either case, it's important to run the right way, and that can be learned. First of all, don't start off running straight away.
You should warm up before every run. An effective warm-up increases breathing and heart rates, and it'll bring the body to something like operating temperature.
Getting warmed up is ideal preparation. It helps prepare the muscles, tendons, and joints for the upcoming strain. After all, you don't want to injure yourself while training.
After a 20-minute warm-up, the muscles are warm and ready to go. Keep the body straight and run in a relaxed way, not too fast.
The first benefit of running is it's fun. The more you run, the more fun it is. It also gives you a sense of achievement. You can eat afterwards because you burn a lot of energy, and it helps you live longer. What more could you want?
It's important to have breathable sportswear and good running shoes, because when you run, twice your body weight goes into each step.
You have to look carefully for the right running shoes. It's very important that they're comfortable and you have good cushioning. There should be a thumb's width of space in front of the foot. You don't want to bruise your toes.
Another important factor, a good running style. The trainer advises hitting the ground with the whole foot instead of the heel. This is easier on the joints. While running, the body burns a lot of energy and loses fluid.
You lose water very quickly when running. If it's a hot time of day, you can lose a liter or more in an hour. You can't completely replenish it while running. Having a small water bottle on you or leaving one somewhere is helpful. Otherwise, rehydrate quickly after training.
The body can't rehydrate more than 100 milliliters water per quarter hour. So, how often should you run? Ideally, 2 to 3 times a week for between 30 and 45 minutes. And
in warmer places, avoid the hot times of day. Run in the evening, or better yet, early in the morning. When it's cooler, you'll sweat less and get less dehydrated. In the morning, it's like having a nice oxygen shower before work, and the temperature doesn't cause as much strain.
Regular running keeps you mentally and physically fit, and it's the best tonic against wrinkles because it improves blood supply to the skin. And what about losing weight?
People associate running with losing weight, and it is possible, but you need endurance and continuity. You can burn 100 grams of fat tissue in 1 hour, which means you have to run for 10 hours to lose a kilogram.
Here again are our tips for healthy running. Warm up and stretch. Drink plenty of fluids. And good running shoes are very important, preferably one shoe size larger than normal.
Good footwear is always the basis for healthy running. Wearing high heels on a regular basis is a nightmare for feet and posture. And toes suffer considerably in shoes that are too narrow or tight. Improper footwear is the main cause of hallux valgus, or the crooked position of the big toe. It can be corrected surgically.
Doctors and patients in Germany often call them sugar screws. That sounds more like something you'd get at a candy store than a clinic, and these titanium strength screws are actually made of something else altogether.
A sugar screw isn't a sugar screw. It's a lactic acid screw made from many lactic acid molecules strung together. The name sugar screw makes it easier for patients to understand what it's made of. It comes from the comparison with a sugar cube that dissolves in your coffee.
Surgical screws that dissolve all by themselves in the body after about 5 years. The prospect was enough to convince police officer and Krav Maga fighter Ilona Gündling. She'd previously put off a foot operation despite huge discomfort.
I'm really afraid of things like injections and anesthetics. My understanding was that I get metal put in my foot and then have to have it removed with a second operation. I was afraid of that, too, lots of time off work and not being able to take care of things at home, plus the possible consequences. When I found out I only needed one operation, I decided to go for it.
Almost a year after the operation, Ilona Güntling has her foot x-rayed again. The 40-year-old has a malposition of a big toe known as a hallux valgus. To correct it, the metatarsal bone was straightened.
We corrected the angle of the first metatarsal here, which is the cause of the hallux valgus. We moved the head of the metatarsus over here and fixed it with a resorbable screw. I also corrected the curve that this bone makes by taking a small bit from here, folding it closed, and also fixing it over here with another screw. That means that the extensor tendon is really centered over the joint.
Resorbable or dissolvable screws can be used for mild and moderate hallux valgus, but not for more significant deformities.
There are severe deformities where there's a strong deviation in the joint and it's also unstable. You then ultimately have to sacrifice this joint here and stiffen it. For that you need titanium implants, usually a combination of a screw and a plate. Unfortunately, so far it's not possible to make plates using resorbable material.
By contrast, resorbable screws have been developed with just the right biochemical makeup, so the material dissolves at the right time. Patients with the earliest sugar screws often had complications, but Ilona Güntling no longer has to worry about that.
It used to be more common to see cysts forming. The material was different. Basically, it dissolved too quickly and left a cavity. Now we've modified it. It takes about 5 years to dissolve. That gives the bone enough time to fill in the hole, to grow into it.
These lactic acid screws are broken down into carbon dioxide and eventually exhaled by the patient. They're suitable for diabetics and those with lactose intolerance. The material is also a good alternative in the case of metal allergies. In Ilona Güntling's case, the healing process went off without complications. Her foot is once again pain-free, and the incision healed without becoming inflamed.
It's worth mentioning that if we'd operated with a metal screw, you'd have to plan a second surgery now and open the scar up again to remove the screws. But we have the great advantage that we used resorbable material. That means no second operation, no second anesthesia, no interruptions to work or sport.
Keinen Arbeitsausfall, keine Sportpause.
Ilona Güntling has long since started training again. Her foot can take the strain of Krav Maga, even of the powerful kicks.
I don't have pain anymore. I can practice my sport, play with my son, and do my job well. Everything's turned out great.
It also means that as a policewoman, she can go on patrol again, without worrying that her foot might cause her problems in a crucial situation.
To run, you need strong legs. Here's an exercise from Vivian Wettig that strengthens the leg muscles.
Let's execute the squat. You bend your knees as you were sitting on a chair. Go down, hold briefly, and straighten up again. We do 10 repetitions with a small break between and 3 rounds. Try to keep your back straight.
Have fun exercising and join us next time on In Good Shape.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
ebiseera by'okuzaayo abaana mu masomero tebiteekwa kukaluubiriza n'akatono. Eno kusimba nnyiriri mpanvu kano kalippagano ka bidduka. Simanya kuzunga na banka siripsi. Kati osobola okusasula school fees z'omwana wo ate n'okola n'ebirala ntoko ku ssimu ye ey'omu ngalo. Ekikola kyangu nnyo. Nyiga bunyizi *185*8 ogoberera ebikulagiriddwa oba okozese app ya MTN Momo. Ate kati okola ki olwaleero? MTN Mobile Money Uganda Limited erungamizibwa banka enkulu eya Uganda.
This week on UBC.
Hello, my name is Dr. Henry Dungu, a consultant in hematology and oncology. Health promotion and disease prevention programs focus on keeping people healthy. They aim to engage and empower individuals and communities to choose healthy behaviors and make changes that reduce the risk of developing chronic diseases and other illnesses. Join me on New Health Chat every Thursday at 9 p.m. on UBC TV, sponsored by National Medical Stores, who are mandated to procure, store, and distribute essential medicines and medical supplies to all public health facilities in the country.
Did you know that our number one value as a nation is to respect and protect the environment? With the current population increase of Uganda and industrialization, this has increased pressure on the natural resources, resulting into environmental degradation and global warming. Developing countries like Uganda could face 80% of the global climate change effects by the year 2030 if no action is taken. Join us here on UBC TV, Inspiring Uganda, on our Eco Plus program, where we bring you an in-depth analysis of issues that are disastrous to our environment. Every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. only on your loved station, the National Broadcaster.
A logical, deeper conversation.
How many teachers in Uganda did you consult? But there's a mistake we are making. Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
We went to this school, we ran it to Western, we ran it to Northern, we ran, then you come. Isn't that an achievement?
Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are not counting,
don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality. So what I'm saying
that's
is
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak low.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
I think what is going to kill the parish model are all the misconceptions on how it's supposed to run.
I know that the Prime Minister is listening.
Behind the headlines.
Charles, let us agree. We liberalized the economy. We are several nations put it together. Why don't you appreciate that? What if it fails? I'm happy
And he's a good lawyer because Amin is not in power. The parish development committee is functional. It is there. That there is a parish chief that the beneficiaries do.
So we look at expenditure. We don't look at revenue. And that is the challenge we are giving them from Minister of Finance.
Your fountain of new knowledge flowing into the mass body of knowledge.
First get the knowledge of Bukedia, how they want to be modernized.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
You return money to the treasury, which is meant for the people.
UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Kickstart your week with the best entertainment.
The only one I give my body,
We bring you the latest in showbiz.
And unlike what the newspapers were reporting, I wasn't doing cocaine, narcotics. No, it was a prescription drug. And I was taking this prescription drug because I had an injury of my back.
Oh mama tetema, tipo tipo tetema. Oh mama tetema, aya twende tetema. Oh mama tetema, shuka chini tetema. Oh mama tetema.
Fashion, tech and gadget news, and your countdown. Join us Monday to Thursday. Jam 101. We set the pace.
Wagalango tude wali, wali.
The quest, giver of life, Alpha without Omega. I am Africa.
Hail to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, a land with the world's most beautiful, captivating features. Hills, mountains and valleys, the enigmatic animal species in the wild. A land where Africa is condensed into one small country with authentic endowment of nature and perfect safari. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, is without the crowds with abundant primates, wildlife and stunning scenery. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, takes you beyond the guidebooks, the known features, and gives you the insights unmatched. Keep it UBC TV, where we inspire Uganda with authentic beauty and nature of our motherland. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Discover the fountain.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
ebiseera by'okuzaayo abaana mu masomero tebiteekwa kukaluubiriza n'akatono. Eno kusimba nnyiriri mpanvu, kano kalippagano ka bidduka. Simanya kuzunga na banka siripsi. Kati osobola okusasula school fees z'omwana wo ate n'okola n'ebirala ntoko ku ssimu ye ey'omu ngalo. Ekikola kyangu nnyo. Nyiga bunyizi *855*8 ogoberera ebikulagiriddwa oba okozese app ya MTN Momo. Ate kati okola ki olwaleero? MTN Mobile Money Uganda Limited erungamizibwa banka enkulu eya Uganda.
This week on UBC.
Hello, my name is Dr. Henry Dungu, a consultant in hematology and oncology. Health promotion and disease prevention programs focus on keeping people healthy. They aim to engage and empower individuals and communities to choose healthy behaviors and make changes that reduce the risk of developing chronic diseases and other illnesses. Join me on New Health Chat every Thursday at 9 p.m. on UBC TV, sponsored by National Medical Stores, who are mandated to procure, store and distribute essential medicines and medical supplies to all public health facilities in the country.
Did you know know that our #1 value as a nation is to respect and protect the environment? With the current population increase of Uganda and industrialization, this has increased pressure on the natural resources, resulting into environmental degradation and global warming. Developing countries like Uganda could face 80% of the global climate change effects by the year 2030 if no action is taken. Join us here on UBC TV, Inspiring Uganda, on our Eco Plus program, where we bring you an in-depth analysis of issues that are disastrous to our environment. Every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. only on your loved station, the National Broadcaster.
A logical, deeper conversation.
How many teachers in Uganda did you consult? But there's a mistake we are making. Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
We went to this school, we ran to Western, we ran to Northern, we ran, then you come. Isn't that an achievement?
Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night. So when people are not counting,
don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality. So what I'm saying
that's
is
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak low.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
I think what is going to kill the parish model are all the misconceptions on how it's supposed to run.
I know that the Prime Minister is listening.
Behind the headlines.
Charles, let us agree. We liberalized the economy. We are several nations put together. Why don't you appreciate that? What if it fails? I'm happy
and he's a good lawyer because Amin is not in power. The parish development committee is functional. It is there. That there is a parish chief that the beneficiaries do exist.
So we look at expenditure. We don't look at revenue. And that is the challenge we are giving them from Minister of Finance.
Your fountain of new knowledge, flowing into the mass body of knowledge.
First get the knowledge of Bukedia, how they want to be modernized.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
You return money to the treasury, which is meant for the people.
UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
Kickstart your week with the best entertainment.
The only one I give my body.
We bring you the latest in showbiz.
And unlike what the newspapers were reporting, I wasn't doing cocaine, narcotics. No, it was a prescription drug. And I was taking this prescription drug because I had an injury of my back.
Oh mama tetema, tipo tetema. Oh mama tetema, aya twende tetema. Oh mama tetema, shuka chini tetema. Oh mama tetema.
Fashion, tech and gadget news, and your countdown. Join us Monday to Thursday. Jam 101. We set the pace.
Wagalango to the wali.
The quest, giver of life, Alpha without Omega. I am Africa.
Hail to Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, a land with the world's most beautiful, captivating features. Hills, mountains and valleys, the enigmatic animal species in the wild. A land where Africa is condensed into one small country with authentic endowments of nature and perfect safari. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, is without the crowds with abundant primates, wildlife and stunning scenery. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, takes you beyond the guidebooks, the known features, and gives you the insights unmatched. Keep it UBC TV, where we inspire Uganda with authentic beauty and nature of our motherland. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Discover the fountain.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Pinky, baby. You got my body waiting for you, baby. You get my heart panting for you, baby. Katinzonga na kolentia, baby. Ngobula tona, baby. I put it down slow. I people take it down slow, easy. What you know, I know. But I get told about novela busy. Banage sina kasikula bandwala banage sokabya sikinda kufa kwenu wabanga tuze kwenu baby yeah.
Oh baby inside, oh baby come inside. You got it know inside. My baby come inside.
My baby come inside. Inside pakumulyango igire.
Bakumanyiza kukoma kumulyango ewange yingira anzete bakukabya love si musango terya kuwabira. Every time you want me, my man kubirako tewaba kusumbua. I'm leaning on you, my man, straight away zakusanira. Hey, onkabya banange ondaza ngasikula bandwala banange onkabya sigenda kuva wano bobanga tuze wano baby yeah. Oh baby inside, oh baby come inside. You got it know inside. My baby come inside.
My baby come inside. Inside pakumulyango igire.
Labo mutima begumbalagala bovao mutima ne gumbalagala.
Oh mutima ne gumbalagala bovao mutima ne gumbalagala.
Labo mutima begumbalagala.
Anybody we won't fight you, may they come, they already know. I'll be right beside you, like the wall of Jericho. They don't know, they don't know. They don't know what's going on. Monagiso, my baby boo. I'll be a soldier for you. I'm getting better in Kung Fu. You should know I got you, and you don't need to guide me too. I'll be right beside you in anything that you do. If you ever need saving, I will be running to you, running to you. I'll be running to you, running to you. Anywhere that you go to, running to you. I'll be running to you, running to you. Anywhere that you go to.
When I'm looking for trouble, it's cause I know that I got you. Wanting my best, everybody, oh. And it's because of your kung fu. And anytime that I'm out of control, you hold me down. You
my baby boo. See all the battles you'll be fighting, and I'll be right there with you. I may be small but I'm mighty, and I go running for you. And anybody waves I be, yes, don't be you pull it, I be alright. And if I ever need saving, I'll be running to you.
Running to you. I'll be running to you, running to you. Anywhere that you go to, running to you. I'll be running to you, running to you.
You go there for
anywhere that you go to. You don't need to worry, anything you want.
Sun up to sundown, love you don't go round down.
Anytime you come to me, baby, I go answer.
Any other brother, baby, you make them run away.
And if you want me coming to you, I go come to you.
Oh, you wanna see me, baby, don't tease me.
Tell me what you want, baby, say I'm not in my heart.
I do, baby.
Yeah, coming in from Chike and Simi. The song is titled Running to You. Welcome to Jam 101. Awesome Calvin, the entertainer, yet again with your #1 TV show. This is Jam 101. We're coming to you straight from Broadcast House, Nile Avenue. How is the evening? We got a lot of entertainment news for you today. Last week we didn't have the movie news. This week, yes, I think we shall have movie news twice. Special people that we do celebrate today. Drum roll are all the porters. Ntegeza bakubech porter bawereza, wereza kakalayi ku kizimbe, shout out. It's a job I've ever done when I was still a teenager to survive, bagabanga zabanga ndoze nkubi zabanga 2-5. Back then, last I checked, ngabaga batano, and was baga bana mutwalo lunaku these days. So if you're one of those people that basically delivers cement, sand that has already been mixed at a building site, you are our special person that we do celebrate. I understand that that role and how it works, how tiring it is. Baby said ebimoyinza okwesa ngo koze ali normaliza ne batakusasula sente abamba bawasasula ku wiki ngeweddeko amu ku mwezi na nebiringa ebyo, But yeah, we do celebrate you today on Jam 101. If you are born today, let us know so that we can wish you a happy birthday in today's program as we get the show started. For now, let's jump back into some more music, and of course when we come back we talk music matters and more. Stay with us.
I'll be home, so tell me when you're coming home. It's a Friday. I'll be waiting for you when you're coming home. Oh, Sunday. I wanna be right where you are. Stay. I wanna be right by your side. Rock me, yeah. Songs from my heart. Some amount of love in me one gear like never before. String my heart, know my heart. Full of paintings of your heart. Kubaruriza wenda kula banene sisi wala nene sikane nyongobira. Kubanya tatewe wana. Twara. I could be a king in any kingdom. I could be a lion in the jungle. Fight for you like King Kong. Entertain you when I sing song. Chance of all Chaco Cola, juice of all baby. Bali bakwisa bubiira kulaga n'ebibi bakana kunazeka ebiri enziro z'abali katalumeko wano mugano nina mungi no with London kulindidde wali wetwesanga ku lunaku luli
wadde kyampisa bubi sasobola kunyonyola enkyali ku mutima gwange. My sister cannot kiss, take me high like cheese. How you do like this? Just wanna seize me on my knees. Just do me all you like, take me good.